Hey guys, it's Shereé, and today I'm going to be sharing with you my sewing books. First things first, if you're new to this channel, welcome. Thank you so much for stopping by. Please do subscribe and make sure you hit that notification bell so that you're notified every time I upload a video. If you're a returning person, someone already subscribed to my channel, thank you so much for your continued support. I appreciate you so very much. Okay, so in quite a few of my videos, I mentioned that I like to read sewing books. And so I wanted to share with you the books that I have right now that I'm working with. There are a couple that I did not include, and those I didn't include because they're not my favorite books. But I did want to share with you the things that have been extremely helpful for me, and hopefully they're helpful for you as well. Now, this isn't a video that's just for beginners. However, if you are a beginner and you just decided that you want to start sewing, these books will be extremely helpful for you if you're an avid reader, but also they're very easy to follow and understand, and that's what I truly appreciate about them. All right, so let me clear off my glasses. I only wear these glasses for reading and only when I'm being good, but since I've had a headache lately, I definitely want to make sure that I wear my glasses. So I want to get started with the book that I purchased first, and it's actually a magazine I got at Joann's Fabric. Lots of people have asked me how I learned to sew, and to be perfectly honest, there are two things that I did that you don't have to do, and I find that after having done it, I realized that I probably could have done without. The one thing I did is when I first got my machine, I signed up for a sewing class, and I wanted to do that so that I could learn all the different parts of my sewing machine and wanted to make sure that I could use it without breaking it. Now, what I found in doing a sewing class for a beginner is that your attention, or let me say, the teacher's attention is divided between you and other students, right? So it's not a full one-on-one. And I was lucky and fortunate in that in the first class that I took, it was me plus one other student. However, the instructor did work on her own personal projects, and I was kind of hoping that she would be like over my shoulder the whole time, like walking me through everything step by step. But it wasn't quite like that, and you can absolutely schedule one-on-one sewing sessions with people, and I think that that could be extremely helpful. Also, if you have someone, a friend or a family member that already knows how to sew that can help you figure out your machine, that's helpful too. But to be perfectly honest, as far as techniques and actually how to sew, I learned that all on my own, all through reading books and YouTube. So sometimes when I have sewing questions, I do reach out to my Auntie Ruby, but for the most part, I have been reading a ton. So the first thing that I got from Joann's. It's actually a magazine style book. This is called Sewing for Beginners. I put a little note so I would remember what to say about this little magazine. So this magazine has some really good pictures in it, and I'll hold up a few so that you can see. But it will break down how to thread your machine, step-by-step instructions and pictures. And for the most part, even though it's a different sewing machine than what I have, it does give pretty much the same instruction that I would use for my machine. It also goes into different sewing machine foots and things of that nature, and some really basic type of sewing techniques, sewing a curve, sewing piping. There's lots of different little things that are in here that I think are helpful. On my note, I wrote that it is great for beginners. It's very basic. It has different stitch types. It teaches you how to install a zipper, parts of the machine, hand sewing techniques, which I think is really helpful because I am not really great at hand stitching things. It's something that is new to me and that I'm really I get really reluctant to do it, so I only do it when I have to, when a pattern calls for it. But usually it's towards the end, and it's something that's really small. It's not like a completely hand-sewn item that I probably would not sign up for at this stage in my sewing life. I did learn to hand sew in home economics when I was 12 or 13 years old, but that was 30 years ago. So honestly, it's not my favorite thing to do. So anyways, it goes over a few fun activities in here, really basic activities. You wouldn't buy this expecting to make a full garment. However, it does give you techniques on how to embellish things that you already own, which I thought was kind of cool. Like if you wanted to add a Peter Pan collar to a tank top that you already have, like something that I have on right here, or this one has a lace embellishment, and so it walks you through the steps of adding lace to things that you already have at home. I think it also goes into how to make a pin cushion. Oh, and there's this little cute like pouch for scissors that you can put in your like travel sewing machine bag, which I do have one of those, because initially when I got my machine, I thought I might take several classes, sewing classes, and maybe join sewing groups. And after the first couple classes I took, I decided that I probably would just teach myself to sew. I just feel that when you're spending that much money, that you should get a little bit more one-on-one. And in some people's cases, people that are just really into sewing classes, they might find the prices to be affordable or appropriate. But for me, I'd rather spend that money on materials to make what I want to make, rather than shared time with someone. And it was kind of hard too, because the first class that I took, like I said, was to learn how to use my machine without breaking it, right? And in that class, I also learned how to make a couple of different stitches, how to do a buttonhole. But that was basically it. So it was kind of expensive for what it was. And then the second time I took a class, it was to learn how to make a basic pair of pants. And in that class, there were like 10 other students, and I felt like I was constantly like raising my hand, you know what I mean? And so, for me, I'm one of those people, this is just the type of learner that I am, and I've been like this my whole life. Like, I like to have the learning experience two ways. I like to read it, but then I need to do it with my hands, right? So if somebody were just to come over and show me one time, it probably wouldn't work. And when I've learned sewing techniques or things from YouTube, I have watched a video several times over until I'm comfortable actually trying it on my own. And sometimes I take notes so that when I actually do go and sew it, I can look back at my notes. Okay, she did this first, and then this, and then that. You know what I'm saying? That's the type of learner that I am. So a sewing class like that, for me, was just a waste of money. I hate to say that, because the teachers are really skilled, and for the right person, a sewing class can be everything. And I will link a link to the sewing class that I actually took, or I shouldn't say the sewing class, the company and location that I actually took sewing classes from. If you're a person that loves classes, you need classes, and you're in the Bay Area of California, then you can check them out. They just started a YouTube channel where they're teaching you basic techniques, and I think that's really lovely. That actually has been extremely, I think would be extremely helpful for people, rather than actually going to a sit-down class, because she teaches you pretty much everything I paid for that first round on YouTube for free. So definitely check out her channel. She explains things really well. She's a very nice woman. And I'll link her information below. But anyways, there's other little projects, like there's a little, the little cuffs for your hot coffee, sewing machine cover, which I actually might make a couple of those for my sewing machine. Both my sewing machine and my serger came with very basic flimsy covers, which I definitely use at night. But it would be nice to have something custom that I made myself. So anyway, this is a good little beginner magazine. Is it necessary? I would say no. If you are a beginner that is just learning to do basic things, like you just want to mend, so you just need to know how to use your machine, then it could be good. But if you really want to get into learning deeper techniques, then I would skip this, and I have another recommendation for you. So this was the first thing that I bought. The second thing that I bought is actually really great. I think everyone should have this book. This one is called Mend and Make Fabulous, and you can purchase this on Amazon. I will put a link to this and all the other books that I've purchased on Amazon in my information section so that you can check them out. The thing that I love about this particular book is that I purchased it because when I initially got my machine, I told my husband, I want a sewing machine for Christmas. I really want to learn how to sew before I turn 40. Like, this is a big deal to me. And he teased me a little bit about it because he didn't know how serious I would soon become about sewing. But my primary goal at that time was just to learn the basics, how to fix and mend my children's clothing, how to hem pants, how to, repair rips and holes and things of that nature. And so this book I ordered, and I have read this book twice, front to back, and I reference it whenever I can. When I first got my sewing machine, I was on a mending frenzy. So I was literally going through my closet in the kids' drawers to find things that I could mend to practice my sewing techniques. I love this book so much because, and I'm going to show you why. So it's going to give you the problem, right? So here's the problem. There's a rip in the fabric. It's a woven fabric. It gives you tips on how to deal with woven fabrics. And then it's going to tell you step by step with really beautiful pictures. I don't know if you can see that. I really hope you can. Step by step how to mend the problem. And it goes into so many details, and for each problem you have really detailed step-by-step pictures on how to fix it. This particular problem is one that a lot of us have, and it's mending torn denim. And for me, this is huge because my boys tear up everything. So jeans, I buy them jeans, I always do during summer, and then probably mid-year around Christmas, I have to patch them up, and in some cases, because they go through these crazy growth spurts, they don't fit anymore. So what I've started doing is buying jeans that are a couple of sizes too big and doing temporary alterations so that they can grow into them. And it kind of actually walks you through how to hem things and how to do those temporary hems where you're hiding the extra length so that you can let them out later. So I really love this book so much. It goes into mending torn lace and, gosh, pretty much any fix that you need. It tells you how to do it. It tells you how to do appliques, which I thought was really cool. So if you have, say, a shirt or a sweater or something and you want to jazz it up and make it a little different, it teaches you how to take contrasting fabric and create your own little appliques and change it up a bit. And I thought that was really neat. But yeah, so this has been an extremely helpful little book for me. And I really like the idea that they give you fabulous ways to adorn clothing. Like I said before, you can do appliques, but in some instances, say you have an outfit that doesn't have a zipper, but you want to have a flashy zipper, it walks you through the steps on how to do that. If you want to add jewelry to pieces that you already own or special buttons, it just tells you basically tips on how to upcycle things that you already have. And I love that. And just for the purpose of being able to mend things and knowing how to do that, I really, really enjoy this book so much. It doesn't go into too many details about alterations, but mending, if you want to do that, girl or boy, this is it right here. You should get this book. Okay, so now the end all, be all, best all book that I have to share with you is this book here. This is the sewing book, and this is by Alison Smith. And I learned about this book actually from this magazine. So after I finished reading this magazine, the very back was ideas for additional reading, and it was right there in the middle. And I was like, oh, the sewing book, tools, fabric, how to use patterns, projects, home, blah, blah, blah. I was like, those are all the things that I need to be an expert on. So anyways, I purchased this book. As you can see, it's all dog tagged because there are certain sections in here that I definitely go back to reference quite a few times as I read the book. The reason why I love this book so much is that you can learn everything you need to know about home sewing right here. Tools you'll need, techniques, what different fabrics are, and just the pictures themselves are just so gorgeous. So here's the first picture I'll show you here. This picture shows you a bunch of different notions and things that you'll need in order to get started with sewing, things that you could use on a regular basis. It goes into different types of cutting shears or pinking shears or rotary cutters, cutting tools in general. It goes into marking tools. It goes into additional things that you might want to use, like dress forms and how to adjust them and all of that. It teaches you how to read patterns. It goes over different types of pins. It goes into different types of thread and what the different threads are used for, and what types of threads don't work together. It goes through different embellishments and buttons, the different names for them. For me, this was all helpful in the beginning because I didn't realize how expensive it was to learn how to sew. It seems like it would be a very obvious thing because when you buy your machine, okay, you have your machine, but now what are you going to do with it? You need all of the materials and the supplies and stuff. I knew nothing. I didn't know what type of scissors to buy. I didn't know what type of needles to buy. Like, you know, these are all very basic things that in the beginning of your sewing journey, you just don't know right away until you do your research. And I love that it's all right here in one book. Another thing is like all the different ironing tools. I had no idea, you guys. Like growing up, I had an iron. That was it, an iron and an ironing board. But now I have an ironing ham and I have an ironing seam roll, and those actually have made my sewing so much cleaner and nicer. And then there's a huge section on sewing machines, different types of sewing machines, what the different buttons mean. Oh, this was really helpful. All the different sewing foots. Now the magazine also had some sewing foots in it, but not as many as in this book, and it tells you what they're all used for. Now when I purchased my machine, probably a couple months later, maybe 3 months later, I actually got a sewing machine foot kit specific for singers, and I don't know how to use any of those foots, like what they were for or any of that. So it was really neat to be able to look back at this book and say, oh, okay, this is what I can use this foot for, and this is what I can use this foot for. And then it goes into the serger, all the different parts of the serger, how to use the serger. It goes into embroidery machines. But one of my favorite sections in this book is the fabric section. As you know, sometimes I buy fabric online and I'm just not sure on what it is. And so this has been extremely helpful because it gives you a description of the fabric. You can see the textures of the fabric in the photos. These are really amazing photos in this book. But it just breaks down all the details of the fabric, how to care for the fabric, the types of thread to use for the fabric, what needle to use for the fabric, and so on. So I think that this alone is extremely helpful. So it's worth it already just by having those things. The other thing is, after it teaches you how to read a pattern, it tells you how to properly measure your body. Now, I didn't get this book until I had already been sewing for a while, but after I got the book, I realized like things really started to click for me. It started to make more sense to me, but I love that it totally breaks down exactly how to measure different parts of your body accurately. And then it teaches you how to do all the altering pattern hacks and things that you need to do, alterations to the patterns to make them fit for you, adjustments. So for me, you guys know that I always have to do a full bust adjustment because I have a larger chest. I didn't know how to do a full bust adjustment. I had watched a couple of YouTube videos, but it really didn't click for me, and I really didn't start making those adjustments until I got this book. But it really breaks it down step by step on what to do for the different type of chest and back adjustments that you need to make in order to make things fit for you. So I thought that that was just really helpful. And it breaks down how to make a muslin, how to adjust your muslin, and then sewing essentials, right? Like how to do what the different stitches are, hand stitching and machine stitches, why you would use one stitch setting over another stitch setting. That's extremely helpful. It also goes through darts, like where to place darts and the effect that they'll have once you've placed them, how to treat them, how to iron them. So many different things. And to be perfectly honest, while I've read this book, a lot of these techniques I haven't tried yet. So when I am ready to try them, it's going to be nice to be able to reference them and go back and look. Another thing that I thought was extremely helpful is when I first started sewing, quite a few of my sewing patterns had facings. Now, as a new sewist, I'm like, I don't know how to do a facing, or I don't know how to do lining. Like, what? Where do I even start? And some patterns don't give you all the details that you need to know to do a proper facing. Some are really well written, and then others are very basic, and I'm sure that those of you that have been sewing for a while know what I'm talking about. But I like being able to reference back to this because it has different styles of garments on one side, and then it breaks down the different types of facings and how to do the facings. So, I mean, for someone who's getting started, this is extremely helpful. Here's another picture of a different type of facing, but it's step-by-step pictures, illustrations, and instructions, which they're beautiful. I mean, each picture is beautiful. There's also a few patterns that you can download. Basic patterns, like there's a shift dress like I just showed you. Oh, one of the things that they have that I thought was so cute, and I plan to hopefully make it for my boys when they outgrow their rain jackets, is that there's a rain jacket pattern for kids, and it's so adorable. Isn't that so cute? It's denim and then it's lined. So cute. So anyway, lots of really good detailed information on how to make basic garments, and then also things that you'll see in patterns. It kind of breaks down how to do that. Like, you'll learn how to do different types of waistlines, how do you attach a skirt to a bodice, how to create gathers, how to create shirring. It breaks down everything, installing elastic. Everything you need to know about sewing, it will break it down for you. Oh, it also includes a wrap dress, a wrap skirt, sorry. Lots of really, really great detailed instructions for techniques that you will need if you're going to be making garments. So if you don't want to wing it, if you don't want to chance it as you're reading your patterns, if you don't want to just rely on YouTube and, you know, the videos that have been produced, and some people have produced some amazing, easy to follow, really clear to look at videos. If you don't want to do that and you want to actually be able to reference something and go back and look closely at techniques and really step by step how it's done, this is the book. This is the book that you should have. And I mean, it's fantastic. Like right now I'm looking at the fastenings because a couple of the patterns that I'm going to be sewing up pretty soon here have different types of fastenings on the back. And I've been doing lots of buttons, and I've recently done quite a few zippers. But like, I've never done a hook and eye, so it breaks down the steps on how to do hook and eye, how to do the sewed in snaps versus the ones that you use the little pliers that I've done. It has all kinds of different things in it. How to apply lining to things, how to make toy boxes or storage cubes. You know, really great things. In the very back, it actually has the patterns that are included in the book. So it tells you how much fabric you need to use, how to lay out the pieces. You know, if you want to have it printed at a print shop, it gives you the link to get to those files, as well as if you want to print it at home. And it's just a beautiful, really well written book. I would have to say that it's my favorite book purchase out of all the books that I've ever purchased, and the reason why is because I feel like if you decide today you want to sew and you know absolutely nothing about sewing, this is going to take you so far in your sewing journey. You're going to learn pretty much everything you need to know in order to go and buy a pattern and actually sew it with success. So, do you need it? No, you don't need any of this stuff. But do I highly recommend it for someone who's serious about learning to make garments? Definitely, 100%. And like I said before, if you've sewn before, you've made lots of things before, you may not need it, but there also might be some techniques in here that you haven't tried. So just, it's worth a go if you're interested. Also in the very back, it has a glossary, which I love because sometimes in these patterns, they'll say to do a certain technique, and I'm like, what the heck is that, you know? And so I can actually look up what it is in this book, and it'll kind of give me an idea. So I think this is extremely helpful. It is, like I said, by far my favorite purchase out of all of my sewing books. All right, so the next one is by the same person. It's Alison Smith, and this is Dressmaking Step by Step. I purchased this one because it came up as a suggestion under the other one. It's a lovely book. I mean, honestly, this is such a really good book. It's a small book. It's easy to read. Same as the other one with the detailed step-by-step instructions, illustrations, fabric pictures. And this one basically walks you through how to make some of the more classic garments. I look at this, and as I read it and look at the different techniques and patterns that are included in this book, I think church, I think professional wear to work outfits, very clean lines. You know, it's going to teach you basic dressmaking. I mean, very classic dressmaking techniques. And I'm going to show you a couple of different garments. Let's see. And it covers a lot of the things that are in the pink book. However, this one goes into details about specific dressmaking techniques. Oh, another thing I like too, like how to attach a sleeve, how to do gathers at the wrists, how to insert a pocket, how to draft your own clothing without a pattern, installing zippers again, different ways to install zippers. All right, so here are the garments. Okay, so you have a classic A-line skirt, and it gives you the pattern you can download as a PDF off of her website. How to install the zipper facings, how to tailor things, and it goes over how to do things with and without a serger, and it also includes hand sewing techniques. Pleated skirt, classic pleated skirt. All of these patterns are classic. They're perfect for if you went to like a uniform school and you don't have to buy the uniform, but you do have to wear certain colors. You could definitely take a lot of the patterns out of this book. This is a very nice classic high-waisted dress. It says waisted, but I said high-waisted. I hope you knew what I meant. Let's see, what else is in here? A sleeveless waisted dress. Super cute. All of these things, like when I look at these pictures, these are the things that I used to work at a county office of education. And I used to supervise grant money for different school programs. And these are all things that I would have worn to the office. So if you, or even I used to work in a school office and I was a school nurse. And all of these things I would have definitely worn to work. So even though this isn't a newer book, these styles are very relevant still. Very classic. So this right here is a classic Palazzo Pants. I'm definitely making these. I think that the lines are so cute and clean. There's a definite defined pleat down the middle, and I'm sure it was done by the way it's ironed. However, it does have darts. So lovely. With deep pockets. I'm definitely making those. So really great step-by-step basic things. So you can learn how to do shorts, like the khaki chino shorts, and a shell top. So I really love it. And then they have the classic boxy jacket, and I'm definitely making that as well. This is definitely a Coco Chanel inspired type of jacket here. And it walks you through all the step-by-step techniques that you need to know in order to make it, as well as different hacks for it. You can do a crawl neck, you can do a collared neck, shawl neck, however you want to call it, shoulder pads, no shoulder pads, pockets on the front, lines. You can make it out of sweater material or different types of fabrics. They teach you how to make a basic shirt. So it's a very good basic sewing book. Great details, includes the PDF patterns that you can download. Extreme value, I think. Those two books right there alone for someone who's making professional garments for work, you're done. That's what you need. Alright, so now let's get into the actual sewing books that have patterns that I've been using on a regular basis. The first one that I got was the Tilly and the Buttons stretch book, and I've mentioned this book, I don't know, a million times on this channel along with the other one. I really like this book so much. Tilly and the Button patterns and books are just so detailed and so beautiful. You cannot go wrong with any of her patterns. This is basically, the first couple pages is just walk you through all the different types of patterns that are included as far as the basic pattern and then the pattern hacks. And it gives you, it's a table of contents, so it gives you the pages that you'll find all of these things. What I really love about this book is that in the very front of the book, it breaks down different techniques for working with knit fabric and stretchy fabric. Because if you've never done it before, you won't know that there's things you need to do differently than you would if you were sewing a woven fabric, right? And so it really breaks down how to identify different types of knits, how to shop for them, how to lay out the fabric when you're cutting it, because it is different in some cases dealing with different fabrics. So how to prep, how to cut, what else? It goes through everything. It does go into measuring yourself. I will say this though, with Tilly and the Button patterns, occasionally I have trouble finding my right size because I might be consistently a size 4 in one pattern, and then in another pattern I have to make a size 3, which is new to me because for the most part when I first started out, all my patterns, if I made a size 5 or a size 4, would fit perfectly. So now I'm starting to notice that with different patterns, even though the measurements say that I would fall within a 4 or 5, I actually need to make a 3. So I'm still working on that. Other people may not have that problem. It is definitely based off of my proportions and the alterations that I need to personally make and adjustments that I need to make to patterns for my body. But anyway, I love it so much. It teaches you how to do top stitching, what type of needles you need, the different stitch types, all of those things. So if you don't want to have a more technical book that breaks down everything, but you do want to get into some fun knit sewing projects, but you just need to know the basics, it comes with all the basic information you need to know in order to make all of the patterns in this book. And each of the patterns is really beautifully illustrated. You get lots of pictures and step-by-step instructions. Here's something that I have made, and this one is it's a Pinafore dress, and I believe it's the BB Pinafore. There's a skirt version and then there's a dress. Yeah, it's BB. So the cool thing is it walks you through how to make the skirt, and then if you decide, hey, I want to also make a pinafore, it walks you through how to alter the pattern and hack it in order to make it a pinafore, and it gives you step-by-step picture instructions on how to do that. So this is a really beautiful book. Along the same lines, Tilly and the Buttons came out with Make It Simple. This is a more recent book, and I've made everything in here, and I love everything in here. The first couple of pages, again, table of contents. It gives you little pictures of all the different items that you can make from this book and the different pattern hacks, and I've actually come up with additional hacks to these patterns. So it's really fun to have pattern companies that have patterns that are easy to hack. So this is a really great book, and it teaches you all the basic techniques on how to sew the garments in this book. So if you're a beginner sewist and you just started sewing, you know very basic, very little things about sewing, you can pick this up with confidence knowing that you'll learn how to do the techniques needed to make all of the garments in this book. So really lovely patterns. Again, step-by-step instructions with pictures. For instance, if you wanted to make basic trousers, it walks you through it. And the cool thing that sets this one apart from a lot of others is it tells you about how much time it'll take you to cut the fabric, about how much time it'll take you to actually sew the garment. And that's rare. A lot of patterns don't come with that. So this right here will tell you supplies list. It tells you how to read the pattern sizing. It goes into how to lay the pattern pieces on your fabric, depending on the size of your fabric. Then it goes into step-by-step instructions on how to create the garment in color. These are actual photos, not drawings. So you cannot go wrong with this type of pattern style. You really can't. Like, it just makes it so clear and easy to follow, and they're my favorite. These types of patterns are my favorite to use because there's very little room for error, because it gives you step-by-step clear pictures. And if you're using similar fabric to what's being described or illustrated or photographed, then you definitely have a little bit more smooth sailing with your sewing. So this right here is another page of a hack, right? So it took those pants and it added a top piece in order to create a really nice dungaree. And I've made 2 pairs of these so far, and I really love them a lot. So yeah, I really love this book as well. Both of these, like the others, can be found on Amazon, but I think I got this one because they were sold out on Amazon. I want to say that I got it from Barnes & Noble online. So those are all my sewing books, and last but not least is a new favorite, and it's my sewing journal, which I've already shared on this channel before, but I don't think there's any harm in mentioning it again. It's called That Sewing Life, and you can go back on my July sewing plans to really learn about the details and the breakdown, but I will tell you a little bit about it. So there are sections in here. You can store all of your family members' measurements, and you can also make a to-do list, which I am a huge fan of. As you can see, I have a really long to-do list there that I've started. Let's see, what else? Oh, actual projects. I'll show you one. So when I made my dress that I made, that McCall dress out of the bubble gauze, you might not be able to see the picture drawing because it's very bright in here, but I sketched the dress. I wrote what type of fabric I would use. If you wanted to, you could put like a little piece of fabric in here. I choose not to because it will make this book extremely bulky. But when as I'm working on my vision board for fall, I have been clipping fabrics and attaching to the vision board. But for this particular book, I just noted what type of fabric I used, and then all the different pieces that came with it, how to care for the fabric, and then I wrote in the comment section things that didn't go right or things that I will change about the pattern in the future. And that's particularly why I actually purchased this, is I needed to, one, get my sewing plans in order and straight, because I get really overwhelmed and there's so many things that I want to make, and I'm constantly wanting to buy new fabric. So I always, and I think I've said this on my channel before, I always purchase fabric that I have a plan for. I don't just completely, you know, go crazy buying a bunch of stuff just because it's beautiful. I do sometimes, and I've said that on my channel, that there's some things like, oh, I found this and I don't know what I'm going to make with it. It's so gorgeous, but it's usually like a couple of things out of a full order of things that I have plans for. So anyway, so I've been really sketching and taking detailed notes. I only enter projects in here with those types of details when they're projects that I've had, not a fail, but I have an idea on how to make it better. But if it's also a fail, I write down in detail, like my Mila dungarees, I drew and put notes in here. Yeah. So my Mila dungarees, I drew a sketch of them, and I wrote out all the things that went wrong and all the things that I plan to do to make it better next time. So I think that's extremely helpful for me. And then there is an expense tracker, which I'll be honest, I didn't use it. I probably should, but I feel like if I did, then sewing might halt on my channel if I really paid attention closely to the numbers and how much money I was spending and all of that. But I mean, it is something that I might revisit, but at this point right now, I'm not going to focus on it. One thing that I did, and I actually spent probably 2 hours doing it, is I measured out all of my remnants or yardage of fabric of things that I've already used. And this is the fabric busting section. And it's funny, it has all these little sayings all over it, and it says, yes, I pet fabric. And I do too. I'm sure that if you like fabric, you do as well. You like to stroke it and rub it on your face. Anyway, so I listed all the different fabrics that I have in my collection that I've already cut into and how much is left of them. I am not including fabrics that I haven't cut yet. I'm only including things that are already remnants and cut in my stash. And this has been really helpful when I was putting together my vision board and knowing, hey, do I have enough of that striped material to make this sweater or this shirt? I was able to look back at this and say, oh yes, definitely I can do that. So that's very helpful for me. And there's a huge note section in the back that you can just take random notes or sketch. So this is something that I'm actually using a lot. I figured I would. When I purchased it, I had an idea in mind, although I couldn't see when you purchase this on Amazon, you can't see all the different pages that are included. So it definitely had some things in here that I didn't know, and that would be very useful. But this is a very good book to purchase, and again, Amazon purchase. And actually a couple of my followers have told me that they purchased this and that they're enjoying it. So I'm glad that this was something that was helpful. Hopefully all of these books are helpful for you. I don't do videos like this often on my channel, so if this was a total snooze fest, I'm sorry, but I really enjoy reading books, and these books I have found to be so enjoyable, so easy to follow. Like, there's no parts where I'm like, what does that mean? Hold on, let me get a Google or look up the definition for this or that. It just explains things so well. The pictures are really great in all of these books. And I just think it has made my sewing journey so much more enjoyable. So if you're a person that really enjoys having something to reference as you're learning new techniques, I think that, you know, some of these books might be really great for you. So like I said before, by far my absolute recommendation would be this one for all sewists. So if you don't have this book, again, it is the sewing book, and it is by Alison Smith. And on the front it says more than 300 step-by-step techniques. It's a really good value. All right, I think that's it. Thank you so much for watching this video, and please do, again, hit subscribe and hit that notification bell, and I will be uploading another video pretty soon here. I'm still waiting on my other fabric order, so hopefully it comes in today. That will be really exciting to share the rest of my fabric haul with you, and then my vision board. So stay tuned because those videos are coming. Have a wonderful day. Bye.